Good afternoon. My name is Stephen Havey. I'm the chair of the Personnel Committee. This is a special Personnel Committee meeting of May 19. To start off, we would like to have a roll call.
Mr. Havey?
Here.
Mr. Harris?
Here.
Mrs. Burdick? Here. Mr. Graves?
Here.
Mr. Ricky?
Here.
Mrs. Root?
Here.
Mr. Stockin?
Here.
Mr. Crandall? 8 members present.
Thank you. First thing on my agenda are the election commissioners, Mr. Reynolds and Mr. McCormick. I believe Mr. Reynolds is here to speak to an agreement with the Village of Wellsville for an early voting site. Good afternoon.
That's it? Okay, I'm good to go. We have a memorandum of explanation in front of you. The state has mandated that we will vote in our most populated area, which is Wellsville. So we need your permission to do that, and they're going to require some insurance, a rider on our policy for those 10 days if it comes to pass. I do want you to know the Assembly does have a bill that they're trying to give us a variance to eliminate us going to Wellsville, because it's really quite unnecessary. We ran a presidential election in our office with 3,000 plus voters, and it went fine. Joe Giulio texted me last night about 6:30, said he's watching it. It may still come to pass, but if it doesn't come to pass, we do need your permission to go to Wellsville and to take.
I'll move it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Graves. Mr. Graves moves it. A second, please. Oh. Mr. Harris, discussion, further questions? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? And that's carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up is Mr. Bobby Budinger. I'm sorry. Oh, you've got a mic with you. That's excellent.
I have a mic right here, yes.
Excellent, thank
Yes.
you. I felt bad for you for just a second. Now I'm okay.
Okay, very good.
All right. A number of things. What's first? Lifeguards?
First is lifeguards. We're in that season again, so we're accepting applications for lifeguards. And we have a couple applicants who are going to be the son and daughter of the person that's in charge of the lifeguards and that aspect of the beach operation. So per our county nepotism policy, I'm coming to you and asking this committee to give them an exception and allow them to be hired as lifeguards. They have worked as lifeguards for the last 2 seasons, I believe, so this will be their 3rd year. So they've done it before. It's my understanding that we actually need them to fill these positions. We anticipate that no one's going to not be hired because of their employment. So we're actually asking this committee to grant that exception to our nepotism policy.
Thank you. And your recommendation is that
Is to go ahead with that. I did ask to see, are there a lot of applicants that are not going to, be employed because of this? They're choosing their family members instead of someone else, and it's my understanding that's not how that's worked out in the past. So I feel comfortable making this recommendation.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to move this for discussion? Good God. Mrs. Burdick, and second, Mr. Stockin. Okay, questions and comments for Mr. Budinger on this matter? Mrs. Hopkins.
Just a quick one, Mr. Budinger. How long is that position? Generally, is it 8 weeks or 6 weeks or whatever?
I'm not sure the answer to that. I guess I'm going to defer that to our county administrator and see if she can help me out with the answer.
I believe it usually goes from Memorial Day through Labor Day.
That's affirmative.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
1 no. And that is carried. Thank you very much. Mr. Budinger, what's next?
Next is our Section 4 salary plan. There's a restructuring that's happening in our district attorney's office. And because of that restructuring, we need to amend our Section 4 salary plan so that the salaries are aligned with the positions correctly. And they'll have to go to the board and a board resolution passed.
Very good. Do I have a motion to move this for?
So moved.
Mr. Graves, and a second, Mrs. Burdick. Okay, questions, comments on this matter? All right. Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? And that is passed. Mr. Budinger, anything else, or have we reached the end of yours?
I think that's all I have for you. Thank you very much.
Outstanding.
Appreciate
Thank you,
it.
sir. Thank you very much. Old business. Mrs. Burdick.
Can I go back to the resolution from the election board?
Yes.
There was a comment, I'm sorry, I didn't catch this earlier.
That's fine.
There was a comment that as far as the cost of it, that we don't know because it'll depend whether the county goes back and bills Wellsville for the election inspectors. And it says the county will decide that. Well, when will that be decided, and do we have an estimate of what the cost will be?
Mr. Reynolds, are you still with us? He is. Mr. Reynolds, we have a question for you. We've backed up a little bit.
Give me a hard time.
I know, I saw that. You have my sympathies.
Thank you. What was
Okay.
the question?
Mrs. Burdick, would you ask that again, please?
If I can remember. In the resolution or the memorandum of explanation, it says that you don't know the cost yet because it will depend on whether the county decides whether to charge back Wellsville for the cost of the inspectors. Who will make that determination and when, and how much, an estimate of the cost?
You will make that determination, and the legislatures will determine it. Right, Terry? Or
Well, in my opinion, it isn't going to be one that we can charge back to the town because it's a county voting. It's a county early voting place, not a town early voting place. So it's required by the law that we have these two places to early vote. I believe it's just like holding the early voting in Belmont. That is not charged back to another municipality. That's a county cost. So I think the inspectors to cover this in Wellsville is the same thing. So I don't believe there is any opportunity to charge it back to the town of Wellsville. It's not their election. It's not their rule. They're not responsible for that, for their voting public, because anybody can go there, not just the town of Wellsville.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions, comments on anything? Oh, Mr. Barnes, sir.
Commissioner,
Mr. Reynolds, sir, Commissioner, you're up again. Your popularity
I
amazes me.
apologize, I was out of the room, you may have covered this, but as I remember, the state law originally said that for counties under 50,000, they only needed to have one.
that's not our understanding at all. Every county, unless you have a variance, have to vote right now, according to law, in your most populated area, which is Wellsville for us.
It has to be where?
In Wellsville, because that's our most highly populated area.
But Mr. Reynolds, we didn't need a second site last year because that was not the law last year, correct?
Correct, yeah. We didn't have that to deal with that last year.
Well, okay, but the original law only had to have one in the county, is that
That's
correct?
probably true originally, yes,
Yeah.
but they came up
And
with
then
it.
they changed it?
They changed it, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and the state's gonna pay for all this, right?
I would not bet on that. But we are still working on this variance, and Gilio and Borello are on top of it, especially Joe Gilio. Like I said, last night he said he's still watching it. We're hoping it will go through and we'll have to pay for it, but. And we were fine last year with the presidential election. We had 3,000 people come through our office.
They came from all over the county.
All over
to
the county right
Belmont.
here, and it worked
And
fine.
bottom line is, my question is why it's not they can't do that. If you're, in my opinion, if you want to vote early, drive to Belmont and vote. Why should we have to have now I can understand if we had 10 million people in
Right.
Wellsville, which we don't. I don't understand why we need one, but
I 100%.
the law is the law, I guess. but
I agree with you, Mr. Barnes. Absolutely agree with you.
Thank you.
I'm
Mr.
just gonna
Healy,
stay
you
here
have
the
something
rest
to
of
add?
the
Well, I just, as long as we got the commissioner back up at the podium again,
My apologies,
I might as well
Commissioner.
take advantage of that fact. And do we normally have a high turnout for these off-year election primaries?
with legislatures, it's probably going to be a relatively big deal because you got a lot of primaries, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of interest. I'm anticipating a significant turnout.
So you think it'll be on a par with for governor or?
I don't know about that, but I know there's going to be a lot of interest. You're all campaigning hard, and especially those of you that have primaries. And if you don't have a primary, you probably have opposition anyway in the fall. So I think it'll be a significant turnout.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Other old business. New business. Good of the order?
Mr. Chairman, as it appears there's no further business to conduct, I move we adjourn.
That would be Mr. Graves. Do I have a second, please? That would be Mr. Decker. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Thank you all. Good meeting.